Would you be open to a plea bargain?
Well, it's not up to me. It's up to Mr. Combs, and I don't see it happening.
Why?
Because he believes he's innocent. He believes he's innocent, and what's more, he believes that he needs to stand up, not just for himself, for his family, and for everybody who's been targeted by the federal government.
He knows the deck is stacked against him. They've got a ton of evidence. Take the plea deal, dude. Just take it.
Well, my guess is that, because we don't know the deal of the plea deal. At least I don't think we do.
True.
Okay.
Well, Bill and Sade, accepting a plea agreement would mean that Sean Combs would have to admit to trafficking and force. And today he made it very clear that was not going to happen. Diddy maintained all along these encounters involved consenting adults and plans to take his chances that a jury agrees.
Isn't that, to my mind, that's one of the bigger hurdles in selecting a jury this coming week, is that there is, at least anecdotally, you know, when I talk to people, they have that opinion, strongly held opinion, that there's celebrity tapes, that they've kind of conflated Epstein, and you mentioned Ghislaine Maxwell and all of these things, into Diddy. There's this idea that somehow this is Epstein redux or something.
Running a criminal enterprise. They say that he forced his employees to both work long hours and participate in a sex trafficking scheme that took place over 2 decades, that he coerced women into sex, that he held these sex parties known as freak-offs and brought in prostitutes to participate in those parties. So he is facing a litany of charges in this case and ultimately could spend his life in prison if found guilty.
What happens is, if people go into a trial believing the firepower on the prosecution is so strong, I mean, let's say on a scale of 1 to 100, it's a 95, that it's so strong, but it goes down to an 88. That helps the defense, because everybody goes in thinking, wow, they're going to prove this, and they're going to prove this, and they're going to prove this, and all of a sudden, none of it's there. I think that actually helps the defense.
Mr. Combs feels, A, he's innocent, which is why he's not going to plead guilty. B, he's going to be truthful about this case because he wants to portray that to the people who have loved him his whole life. And I think he also feels an obligation to people in general. Maybe it's black people, maybe it's white people, maybe it's anybody who's ever felt aggrieved and targeted by the government. He feels an obligation to those people to say, you know what, maybe I can break the model. You know, maybe I can show the world that a black man can win, you know, in federal court. And I think he probably is the only person I know of who might be able to actually accomplish that.
She did, and when the judge did, Diddy, who was sitting at the defense table with his attorneys, did not show any signs of emotion. He took a sip of water before he was led out of the courtroom by the U.S. Marshals. Now, his lawyers have vowed to fight this. They are going to be back in court on Wednesday before the judge who will oversee this trial and try to get Diddy to be released. Diddy's lawyers had argued that he had made good faith efforts by showing up in New York ready to surrender to face these charges, but prosecutors said that he could not be trusted, that he has a history of trying to intimidate witnesses, including some who are going to be witnesses in this case. They urged the judge to remand him.
Now, Diddy was in court today. He was wearing the tan MDC inmate uniform, even though the judge gave him permission for when the trial starts to wear regular, what they're calling business casual, a button-down shirt. But he was offered a plea deal to make this whole case go away. But Diddy stood up through the entire reading and this entire process of back and forth with the judge and the prosecutors and the defense team, and said that he understood what he was doing. He did not want the plea deal, and that he was officially rejecting it.
Do you still think that, because there is this public perception, that there are celebrity tapes involved in this case?
No.
Do you still think that there are minors involved in this case?
I'm certain no.
Okay.
And again, when you say this case, we're talking the criminal case.
The criminal case.
In the
correct.
criminal,
I know that.
In the criminal case, no.
But I make no excuses. My behavior on that video is inexcusable. I take full responsibility for my actions in that video. I'm disgusted. I was disgusted then when I did it. I'm disgusted now.
Back up a little bit, please. How can you support your father? How do you support him moving forward?
The last hearing before Sean Combs' trial starts. When he walked into federal court today, he appeared to be looking for his family. They've pretty much been at all of the hearings that I've been to, but there was no presence of his sons or his mother or his sister who had previously been at those hearings.
Tonight, Sean Combs makes it official. He's rejecting the government's offer to plead guilty and spare himself the possibility of a prolonged term in prison. When asked if he turned down the offer, Combs answered, "Yes, I do, Your Honor," as he stood in a baggy beige jail uniform. Terms were not disclosed, but prosecutors did say a plea could result in a shorter sentence for Combs than if he's convicted.
Federal attorneys jolted the downtown Los Angeles courthouse at first light when they confirmed that a brand new hallway video, recently uncovered by Justin Bieber's legal team, would join the government's evidence list in the high-profile case of United States versus Sean Combs. The update floated through press row like a rogue paper airplane because for months observers had whispered about a mystery corridor, a restricted wing and door cycles timed down to the second. Yet, no one had actually watched those details on screen. Until now.
At trial, Combs will ditch the jail garb and wear ordinary clothes. As his lawyers argue, the evidence shows consenting adults being intimate in their own way.
This is going to be such a massive trial, like maybe the biggest Hollywood trial. God knows which way it's going to go. Is it going to go on for weeks?
For sure, weeks.
After weeks of testimony about spreadsheets, router logs, and linen invoices, jurors may soon see a moving picture that threads the mosaic together in one continuous shot. According to an 8-page filing first stamped sealed and then partially unmasked for public viewing, Bieber's counsel delivered the clip through an encrypted cloud link, attaching a sworn declaration that the singer had personally reviewed and confirmed its authenticity while preparing for separate civil litigation.
We have the latest from federal court in the Sean Combs criminal case. Status of jury selection, what Diddy's going to be wearing, violation of a gag order, rejecting a plea offer.
Government technicians say the clip passed every integrity test in the manual, showing that its metadata, timestamp, and device signature fit the private gathering investigators have tried to pinpoint for nearly half a decade. In short, the video appears to land at the exact moment and location where, prosecutors argue, the guest wing security routine shifted from polished hospitality to something more concerning. The hallway footage runs 14 minutes and 32 seconds. A stretch that courtroom regulars already joke will feel longer than an avant-garde short once it plays start to finish before the jury.
Music mogul Sean Diddy Combs back behind bars, a magistrate judge denying him bail, saying that there were no conditions that she could conceive of that would make her confident that he would appear again for other court appearances. The judge saying, "My concern is this is a crime that happens behind closed doors."
A hip-level camera watches as uniformed staff guide small groups of high-profile guests toward an interior doorway later labeled on blueprints as the entry to the so-called restricted wing. Periodically, the lens pans, catching colored light reflections and snippets of radio chatter drifting from an open walkie channel. 3 times a staff voice uses the phrase, "heartbeat reset," a term jurors heard earlier from former security. Chief Roger Bonds, who described it as code for synchronizing locks, brief camera pauses, and linen swaps in one coordinated burst. Investigators point to a calm yet authoritative voice, issuing clipped radio instructions on 5 occasions. Their preferred audio specialist, using spectral analysis, links the voice to a Combs executive assistant whose encrypted chat history already resides in the evidence stack.
Now, as far as jury selection goes, I think the biggest takeaway for me is that both sides expect to have all of this done in the matter of 3 days. Now, given just how high profile this trial is, I was kind of stunned that they seem very confident that they will be able to seat a jury in that amount of time.
Defense counsel quickly called for an independent comparison, arguing, corridor acoustics and background noise might blur vocal markers. Judge Aaron Subramanian agreed to a second review, but warned that the court calendar cannot expand indefinitely for dueling experts. To anchor the video within the timeline, prosecutors filed a supplemental chart aligning each second of footage with router pings captured by a network device subpoenaed from the estate. Those logs show a gadget tagged with Bieber's initials roaming the same access points visible on screen, a neat overlap the government says undercuts any fabrication theory.
The decision guarantees Combs will face trial beginning just 4 days from now that will test whether one of music's most prolific figures used his power, wealth, and fame to exploit both women and men for decades.
Bieber explains in his declaration that he filmed on a handheld camera, while his phone remained on the local Wi-Fi, satisfying questions about simultaneous wireless activity and continuous recording. Defense lawyers intend to turn that into a new thread. Why, they ask, did the pop star retain a recording device when other visitors surrendered electronics at the door? Prosecutors reply that this exception bolsters their broader theme. Certain celebrities enjoyed privileged treatment, exposing cracks in Combs' picture of rigorous, uniform security.
What made you come here to support Puff?
I'm supporting Puff because he's innocent, and I'm wholeheartedly believing his innocence, and I know he's innocent. So
you say you know he's innocent?
1,000%.
Midway through the footage, two workers whisper that linen inventory is running dangerously low in what they call refresh bins. Prosecutors plan to pair that aside with receipts showing late-night rush orders for industrial cleaners, arguing the uptick in deliveries aligns curiously with the door sensor resets plotted elsewhere. Defense attorneys shrug that holiday. Weekends always drain towels and disinfectant. They vow to show that housekeeping coincidence does not equal wrongdoing. Bieber's statement stresses he is not a target, merely a cooperating witness who stumbled on the clip while sorting archives.
Major developments tonight involving the case against Sean Diddy Combs, what he decided in court today, and what this now means, the move coming just 4 days before his trial is set to begin.
For unrelated merchandising litigation, he claims no financial gain and no expectation of leniency. He is not charged with anything. Nevertheless, defense lawyers hint they will explore civil motives, suggesting a singer facing potential damages might curry goodwill by presenting prosecutors with a headline-grabbing video. Procedurally, the new footage injected both oxygen and paperwork into the trial. Judge Subramanian scheduled an evidentiary hearing to decide whether jurors will watch the full corridor sequence or edited excerpts. Defense counsel cried foul over late disclosure, requesting a continuance into summer. The judge granted a short recess of 48 hours and reminded both sides that federal rules allow supplementation when evidence could not reasonably surface sooner.
His demeanor in court, I think seeing that things were going on, he seemed to be more upbeat than some of the previous times that we've seen him here. His hair is salt and pepper now, which may surprise a lot of people who are used to seeing it just being solid black. And also, too, I saw him for the first time since I've been there in court, actually pull out reading glasses to look at documents that were handed to him by his defense attorneys.
Prosecutors handed defense a forensic clone of the memory card, hash values, and chain of custody log included. While attorneys sparred, private event insurers fired off advisories warning music industry clients that future claims may require continuous hallway coverage, lest another forgotten handheld emerge to rewrite history. Risk managers at 3 major labels revised guest device policies, defining exactly when a credentialed camera may bypass collection bins, how each exemption gets logged, and who signs off.
Now, the judge also warned both sides, both the prosecution and the defense, that he was going to be very, very strict about public statements being made moving forward.
Ripple effects traveled further. Plaintiffs' lawyers steering parallel civil suits raced to court, asking to view the tape under protective orders. Combs' civil team argued discovery should pause until the criminal matter ends, citing risk of witness coaching. A magistrate scheduled a joint conference and urged everyone to coordinate with the criminal court's confidentiality maze, lest duplicate fights drain 2 dockets at once.
Jury selection begins Monday, David. Prospective jurors have already started answering written questions. If Combs is convicted, he faces what could amount to a life sentence.
Back in the main venue, defense repeated that 14 fresh minutes require more than 2 sunsets to scrutinize. The judge differed, noting that underlying metadata had been available for months. Only imagery was new. Reporters exchanged jokes about whether a camera angle can truly turn routine data into blockbuster proof, even as social media erupted with memes of Bieber holding a magnifying glass over a hallway screen grab. At the hearing, prosecutors brought an FBI digital media specialist who walked jurors through the chain of custody like a museum guide unveiling a priceless vase. The agent testified the card's hash values matched perfectly from seizure to courtroom display, with no trace of file alteration. Cross-examination focused on unused card space, implying hidden fragments might lurk, but the specialist insisted a full forensic image showed only standard blank clusters. Next came a lighting contractor who had installed the estate's heartbeat, illumination, a phased red pulse effect that guided guests toward the restricted wing. He confirmed that during pulse cycles, other lights dimmed, making the hallway glow like a runway. Prosecutors framed this as evidence management could time foot traffic precisely. Defense countered that the lighting system is a common luxury, products sold openly to event planners. To give more context, prosecutors introduced 2 concise email threads from the same week as the footage. In one, a Combs aide begs a supplier for expedited linens. ASAP, need full refresh by dawn. In the other, an internal directive tells technicians to disable certain network cameras for maintenance during the window shown on tape. Defense objected that the messages lacked context and could reflect ordinary party prep, not covert acts. The judge admitted both as business records, but instructed prosecutors to avoid portraying maintenance as coded wrongdoing.
Sean Combs is such a high-profile defendant, and it's always difficult, or more difficult, to find a jury in those cases. Racketeering comes with the highest sentence.
Outside the courtroom, streaming services briefly nudged Bieber's catalog up algorithmic playlists before activity settled back by lunchtime. One analyst predicted private event insurance premiums might climb by double-digit percentages next renewal cycle, yet investor reaction was muted. A beverage partner tied to Combs dipped slightly, then recovered by closing bell. Defense then revealed plans to call a home automation executive who will testify that camera downtimes matched routine firmware updates, not concealment attempts. Prosecutors responded with service logs stating those cameras reported healthy status. Only hours earlier, the judge slotted the vendor's appearance for the week's end and warned counsel to skip brand promotion or face contempt. Meanwhile, a data analytics consultant hired by prosecutors prepared a heat map overlay, a swirl of colors merging. Video time codes, router pings, linen orders, and staff badge scans, claiming near-perfect alignment at key moments. Defense argued the rainbow chart might mesmerize jurors into perceiving patterns that are not there. Judge Subramanian allowed the exhibit, provided prosecutors clearly explain each data source. With rebuttal nearly wrapped, government attorneys formally rested, prompting the routine defense motion to dismiss. The judge denied it, saying a reasonable jury could accept the narrative if they deem it credible. Attention now turns to closing arguments and to a fresh debate over jury instructions. Prosecutors propose language telling jurors to weigh late-filed evidence like any other. Defense drafts advise caution because surprise exhibits can hamper cross-examination. The judge split the difference, saying timing is one factor, but credibility rules. Beyond the legal arena, the footage sparked a legislative proposal in Sacramento tentatively titled the Creative Industry Guest Safety Act. The bill would fund independent compliance officers at private entertainment events, anonymous hotlines for performer concerns, and clear rules on device collection. Venue owners signaled cautious backing, provided liability limits accompany new paperwork, acknowledging that opaque security no longer suffices when forgotten cameras can resurface years later and light up a courtroom projector.
The pre-trial hearing will start in a matter of hours in the federal sex crimes case against rapper and hip-hop mogul Sean Diddy Combs. Combs is facing at least 3 federal charges, including sex trafficking, and faces up to life in prison.
In a final twist, the mansion where Bieber's camera rolled has changed hands through a court-approved sale. A nonprofit art collective bought the property, promising to preserve the guest wing corridor as a permanent exhibit on transparent egress routes. City planners review renovation plans, and rumor says school groups will tour the hall to learn basic digital forensics, transforming a former celebrity playground into a classroom for the curious. Financial markets may shrug, but the trial's impact stretches beyond tickers. Music managers now debate whether artist agreements need clauses ensuring the right to independent documentation, lest future defense teams accuse them of hiding evidence. Whether that becomes body cam-style rules at A-list parties is unclear, yet conversations on risk mitigation have begun. And once the industry starts talking safeguards, change usually follows. When closing arguments arrive, government lawyers will highlight the convergence of independent streams, video frames, wireless logs, purchase orders, and lighting controls interlaced with insider testimony. They will tell jurors that each strand alone may look ordinary, but woven together, they form a rope strong enough to tug at a public image years in the making. Defense will reply that only a Hollywood imagination transforms housekeeping chores and firmware updates into nefarious plotting, urging jurors not to let one celebrity hallway clip eclipse the bustling, ordinary chaos of high-profile hospitality. Whatever the verdict, the saga reads like a digital age parable. 14 minutes of casually filmed corridor footage, tucked onto a forgotten memory card, has nudged insurers to rewrite policies, pushed lawmakers toward new standards, and reshaped a courtroom battle that once seemed destined to hinge on dry spreadsheets alone. If nothing else, the Bieber clip proves that in modern scandal management, the quiet witness hiding in a corner may be an unblinking camera, steady, indiscriminate, and always ready. For its close-up,